Okay, so today we have George from HoneyPot, the dating app. Would you be able to give us an overarching view of what HoneyPot do and what you're looking to build?
Yes, absolutely. So HoneyPot is a new dating app for London. We've been out now for about 3 months. And the focus of the app is all about same-day dating. So it's a dating app that you use it, and the point is that you actually line up a date that day. So you match with someone and meet them all in one day. So we're speeding up the whole dating process rather than that small talk on the app for a week before you line up that date. It's all quite formal. You might give up your whole evening. We very much see an opportunity to try to deformalize the dating process and make it much more chilled. I think there's actually a stigma around that first date. There's a lot of pressure associated to it. You know, you tell someone you're going on a date and there's all that hype of, oh, you're going on a first date, let me know how it goes. I don't think it needs to be that way. I think we should be more open to meeting more people more often in order to date more efficiently. So that's the premise of the app. We've got a great feature in there that allows people to do stories, so it's very visual, rather than the profile being quite boring and static, and you've got a bio of yourself and a few pictures. We've brought the whole thing to life to make it as real-time as possible using a simple story feature, which facilitates that real-time aspect of on-the-day dating. So that's what it's about, really.
So are you looking to own the whole of the dating cycle? So do you have like bars and fun activities lined up on the app?
That's something we're looking to do later down the line.
Yeah.
Right now, we've been live for 3 months. We came up with this idea last year, very quickly built an MVP, a first version, got it to market, been testing it, been taking on the feedback, which of course I'll share with you of how we're learning from customers at the moment. But it's all about trying to be position ourselves in a very different way and come at this from a different angle, rather than the other apps, which I think there's a genuine problem with. I think we've got the problem of information overload. We see too many profiles and too many people on the app. There's no immediacy to it. And I think it's quite stagnated. You know, you're matching and liking, swiping for the sake of it. It's become now a dopamine hit. It's more of an ego boost because we expect matches to come through, but there's little genuine attempt to actually meet that person. So in terms of what your point you said about will you feed places and suggested date spots into the app, absolutely. That's something we're looking at doing. But right now, for this first version, we're facilitating that connection to happen, and then they can message each other with a view to meet up that day.
Yeah, no podcast is complete until you actually ask, what was the germ of the idea? I don't think it takes much to figure out what the germ of the idea was, but would you be able to elaborate on?
I hope to be married by 30. And so, well, that's what was always my plan. And, you know, time's ticking now, I'm 27, I realised, well, what's the quickest route, you know? When you've used all the other dating apps and, you know, you run out of people to match with, kind of need to build your own. No, I'm joking. It was more of yes, it came from frustrations from the other apps, being like, this is all quite boring. How do we make it more exciting, more spontaneous, more serendipitous, really? I think, you know, people don't like to say, oh, we met on an app, even though it's becoming more normalized now, and Tinder sort of made it very normal to be like, yeah, we met on Tinder. They sort of own that whole dating app experience of meeting someone and building a relationship with someone from online to begin with. But I see it as a way to dating to become more exciting. That's what I want. That sort of butterfly feeling when you match someone and an hour later you're going on a date with them. That's pretty cool to be able to do that.
Throughout my research, of course,
done a bit of digging into
yeah, exactly, and digging into different dating apps. Really, we both agreed by the end of the podcast, I'll make my own profile.
Yes, please do. Yeah,
and I'll feed back to you.
Yeah, please.
I looked at other dating apps, and there was an app called Happen, which had like a geolocator and enabled you to connect with people around you.
Yes, so all dating apps run a radius query of wherever you are. They pull in people around you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to slag off Happen. I think they're a great app. They're a French app. And their marketing, their message is that you walk past someone and you both catch eyes, and then later that day when you're sitting at home on the sofa just doing that, you see that person that you may have saw. Two things. How does the app know that you've both had eye contact with each other and you saw that person and had that moment of, oh, I'm too afraid to go talk to them. Oh, let's just wait until you're on the app. We walk past thousands of people in London. It's simply not kind of possible for that to work. And also in that close proximity of vicinity, that would be a Bluetooth feature of kind of phones buzzing each other as you walk past each other.
There's a serious privacy issue.
There really is, but it's more to do with have done a very close proximity search around you, rather than you walk past someone and the phones are sort of connecting, if that makes sense. So it's clever, and it's their marketing message, but in terms of how it works, it's very similar. I was just about to say very similar to HoneyPot, not similar at all. What they do is they show that person who you may have walked past with, if that happens, which I don't think really is possible. But what we're showing and they're not is that availability of today, which is everything HoneyPot really stands for. It's this all about, how do I see who's available today? And no other app, be it Hinge, Bumble, Tinder, Happen, actually focuses on time of who's free today.
At that moment in time.
At that moment in time or today. Our tagline is today's dating app. Meet that day. So rather than it, happen, you might have walked past someone and you may have seen that person, which I don't really completely buy into. You're still matching. Still the problems happen. Do you actually get around to meeting that person? So that's
fun. Hinge has really become really popular recently, especially amongst a lot of my friends.
They're a fantastic app, Hinge. They're doing really well. And I think why they're great is they've been able to bring the profile to life using the prompts. So rather than just writing a pretty standard static bio that you write once and everyone hits the bar and you're like, well, what do I say? They're encouraging content by pre-suggested questions from Hinge that you answer and have your own spin on. But just like in all dating profile, people do take time in their answers. When they reply to these prompts, lots of the time people make them quite quick-witted and a bit dry and a bit funny. I've had it where they've had a cracking Hinge profile. You meet them, it's like you're nothing like your prompts. So it is what. Do you see my point? So I think they're great, and their interface is beautiful. The way it runs, it's smooth. They've had a lot of money pumped into their UI, their design, the engineering behind the whole app is seamless. And we fully accept. We're not at that stage yet where we look that good at all. We're trying to introduce a new concept. So as well as us bringing a new dating app to market, there are lots of dating apps and there are thousands of dating apps you don't know of, but we're trying to introduce a new concept, this whole idea of it's okay just to match with someone and meet them later that day. It's okay to meet someone for 20 minutes and go for a coffee with them. We're trying to, as I said earlier, deformalize it, but our real goal is to just change a culture of how dating currently is and sort of influence behavior of how we currently use apps and meet new people.
That's really interesting. I mean, you touched on Hinge specifically, and you talked about the fact that they have prompts and stuff. And one thing that I've kind of learned about product, throughout doing this podcast is, so for example, Tinder, they focused on product market fit, and I guess that's important. But what Hinge really focused on was adoption and actually increasing the frequency of usage through the app, and by introducing that, how are you guys kind of attempting to increase the adoption and the usage of the app?
So with dating apps, it's sheer numbers game in terms of you need volume. You have
law
to
of averages.
Until you find the right one. So in terms of users and you have to hit critical mass, and the supply and the demand has to be there for a dating app to kind of work. Otherwise, you have two people on a dating app, it's just not going to work. You have to have a degree of choice without having a surplus of just thousands of people you don't know where to start. But in terms of adoption of what we really stand for, yes, as I mentioned earlier, it's about same day, but Hinge have done it well with the prompts because it makes the profiles more engaging. Our angle is stories. Instagram have done it very well, and Snapchat was sort of the pioneer of stories behind it, and then Instagram took over. And there's other platforms that do focus on the stories. And for me, a prompt is all well and good, but it's still just text. Actually, how do we make something way more visual? Come the age now where we are just doing a quick selfie on our phone or a video with our friends at the bar. That's engaging. That's very visual, raw, authentic visuals where you can sort of see that profile. It really brings the whole thing to life, as well as focusing on the immediacy of everything. So our job now is to educate our current users that stories, it's okay to do that. And the difference between us doing a story on, so a user doing a story on HoneyPot, and the difference between someone doing it on Instagram, you're broadcasting out to your network you're following, this is what I'm up to, with no, you want to share what you're doing, and there's a bit of a gratification behind what you're sharing, but you're not really expecting anything in return, apart from a few people to react to a story or, follow you or whatever. With HoneyPot, there's a real reason to why people are doing stories, because they're wanting to date that day. It's a component of the app that actually states, I am free. So rather than just doing a story for the sake of it, by doing it on HoneyPot, you're doing a story for a reason, because you're saying you want to meet, you're open to meeting today. So that's kind of how we're introducing that feature, but it's a concept as well, because people are not used to doing stories on a dating app, and that's what we sort of need to normalize. But of course, it makes it addictive to a degree. We don't want to make it too addictive where people stay on the app and they don't actually get around to meeting. We want to make it where they sort of, that element of mystery, of intrigue, of what's going on around me, through quite a visual aspect using stories. So I think that's our way of people adopting this, because you think HoneyPot and you think, oh, it's a dating app with new stories, which is pretty cool. We're getting known for that now, which is great.
Yeah. How have you seen the dating landscape change? I mean, I've actively seen it completely change since university. I guess that's when I began. That's when I began. I had a personal story which I found quite bizarre, because I went to a friend's wedding. Told one of my friends, hey, I actually saw this girl on a train, and I actually plugged up the courage to speak to her. It was quite and what she actually said to me was, that's really weird. I would never speak to somebody out on the street if they approach me. And I found that really bizarre. And I said, well, how do you date? Because you're a pretty girl. You're clearly not, there's no way you're not dating. You're as single as me. And she said, I would only meet people on Bumble or any other dating app. And I found that quite bizarre. How have you seen the dating life cycle change?
I started using the apps probably when I was 22, 23. It's post-university, really. Sort of Tinder was just starting to catch on. And of course, they were the true pioneers in revolutionizing the dating space, where, as I said earlier, it's more normal. And now it's become so embedded in our way of life of dating apps. That's how we think we should meet people, which is, I'm saying this here as a co-founder of a dating app. I still think the whole approaching someone is a fantastic way to meet people. Of course it is, but it takes courage. It's fear. There is that fear of rejection which comes into play when we see someone, we like look over attracted to them, or it's hard to be like, I'm just going to go talk to them. And I think we're actually missing opportunities because we see the fallback maybe as the apps. So we think, I'm not going to go talk to them. And then you think, a missed opportunity, which is a shame. And you get back home after an evening and you've had a few beers in the bar with your friend, you're like, I really should have done something about that. Then you jump on the app, but then you do that. You keep doing that, you get matches through, but then actually you don't get round to meeting someone. So you think, sod the damn app, I'll just wait until I'm in a social situation and I'll have the balls to go talk to someone. Same thing happens. You go back to the bar, but you're too scared. Jump on the apps and nothing happens. So there's this vicious cycle going round and round. It's almost more comfortable to be at home, to be sitting on an app, just doing that, because you're in your own environment. You're not actually there in front of them. But in terms of how it's changing, I really think it's massively changed. We're sort of now relying on phones to be a connector, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but if it's actually hindering our ability to meet people more often, which I really believe it is, that's where the problem lies. So this whole thing, I just think people should be more open to getting more face-to-face with more people. And that's obviously, that's why we're here. And in terms of future, who knows where it will go.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, who knows where it will go.
You guys are looking to bring the online experience offline as soon as possible. How do you think about that from a design perspective? And did you guys stumble upon any insights when you were planning to, or have you come across any insights as you've been building your product?
Yeah, I mean, Just a dating app. We've all dating apps, whatever it is, we've got one thing in common, and that's to connect two people with a view that they meet. How we do that? Of course, every dating app has got their own sort of identity. Bumble being female empowerment, Tinder being invented the swipe, Hinge started with friends of friends, now moving more mainstream and focusing on the prompts. Us, same day and stories. We are introducing something, because at the end of the day, what is it we're trying to do? We are trying to get more face-to-face and go on a date or be around more singles. And the community we are building and really starting to get through to now are people who are open, who are just sort of bored of apps. It's like, right, let's cut the crap, let's actually just get around to meeting. We've got a feature coming out in January that's called HoneyPot Hangout, which is, so it's still, it's very offline, it's very in real life, but it focuses on us selecting a secret venue every Thursday and putting a push notification out to all users in London saying there's a HoneyPot Hangout going on this bar. Go there if you're interested in just being around other singles. So it's a way to use an app, but also still to connect people, but done in a very social way. But normally when you think dating apps, you think just one-to-one date with that person. No, we're trying to make it much more of a social experience of the whole thing. And then later down the line, we're going to be sort of grouping up profiles. If you're with a friend in a bar, you can sort of pod up your profile. So there's two of you, quick story, you know, having a beer with a friend. Then it's broadcasted to the singles in the area, and then that's how it all works. But yeah, it's
that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
How long do you think that's
what you're thinking. How do I get that?
How do I get
we're working on it at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, we're 3.5 months in now.
Yeah.
And you know, we're doing really well for how we've got this out there in terms of we've done no digital yet at all. We've done on the ground PR stunt after PR stunt after PR stunt, and some of the ones we've done have just been ridiculous. But that's the point.
I was hoping you'd bring the cardboard cutout.
Yeah, I was having a little look around here. Is there any whiteboards or cutouts about? Yeah, so we've been sort of getting out there in a very unusual, unconventional way, which I don't think many, you know, we're a tech startup, but yet we're doing everything offline, which is quite sort of, you know, quite ironic really. We're doing things like, you know, as you probably saw, you saw the cardboard cutout saying, you know, we built our own dating app to find girlfriends. We've done some quite controversial messages about sort of, I cheated on my girlfriend, this is my punishment, PS, do not download HoneyPot, which yes, is bold. It's bold for a brand to do, it's controversial, but that is our brand right now. We're very much having this attitude of, we're doing it our way right now, and people are buying into our story. We don't have some established brand where we're this, you know, Silicon Valley startup that's got millions of users in the States and they're coming to London. No, this has been born and built by London singles who are coming at it in a much more authentic way. And we try to sort of manufacture our authenticity behind the whole thing, where it's me and my co-founder treating this, having a lot of fun doing this, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. And people see that, you know, we're not this formal company that's everything's really serious. No, we're having fun with this. And luckily we've got a product where we can have fun with it, because, you know, dating is quite a talked about thing. And if you can storytell in a way where people can market your product for you, people are starting to do that, because it's like, oh, have you heard of HoneyPot? Have you seen their marketing? We're now moving the process to, have you heard of HoneyPot because their product's really cool? We've had to do it the other way around to start with, focus on our marketing to be bold and totally different. People then download the product, then start to talk about the product. We've done it where we've focused on our story to begin with, rather than just feature. So we'd never talk about features when we're trying to spread the word to begin with, because, you know, you think dating app, cool, you know what a dating app does. Yes, we're very different and we're connecting people on the same day, but we're trying to get people to buy into us as entrepreneurs and getting them to follow our story to begin with, which I think people seem to be liking, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. It's part of the reason why you're here. I found you on LinkedIn.
Yes, we're suckers on LinkedIn. I say, oh yeah, it's all organic on the ground, but no, LinkedIn is a machine for organic reach.
It is. I wanted to touch on your marketing, and I guess that's the reason why we connected, because I saw you in a cardboard cutout.
Yes.
Your approach is really refreshing, because you see a lot of mainstream technology companies just increasing the share price of Google and Facebook, and a lot of these social platforms. A lot of them are just basic apps, and then they just drive a ton of marketing into these platforms, hope to derive an ROI. Have these fake metrics to show investors, which doesn't really indicate product market fit. What you're doing is a completely different perspective. And what was your thinking behind the marketing that you're currently doing?
Well, the thinking, for starters, we knew, we built a first version, and we're very honest with our first version. It's a concept. We're getting it out there. We don't look as pretty or as glossy as the Bumbles, the Hinge, the Tinders yet. We're not at that stage. We're 3 months in. We're very new. So if we did a load of Instagram or Facebook, digital marketing, our competitors have got way deeper pockets than us. They're just going to absolutely, they're ranking, the budget they can put behind this is so much bigger than ours. Why actually waste budget paying, £3.50, about £3.10 for a download on social, where we can work out, we've worked out our cost per acquisition is about 5p of doing it completely differently. Yeah, it's about 5p at the moment.
Really?
We've taken the angle, we're actually boycotting social at the moment because we don't want to just waste money. We've currently got 119 investors, we crowdfunded last year. And why just waste, and when I say waste, it does work, that's why lots of companies do it. But I'd rather focus, as I said earlier, on the story to begin with and do it in a totally different way where we stand out. We're getting noticed because we're not doing Instagram. We're making more noise doing it in such an unusual way and coming up with these crazy, very out there, sometimes a little bit controversial marketing messages, but it's working better than and it's just cheaper per download than we did if we were doing it on digital. And we just wanted to, as you said, wanted to be refreshing. I'm pleased you said that. It's very kind of you. We wanted to have a refreshing angle to it, and it literally is as simple as a Sharpie and a whiteboard. But we're putting our message in there, and as I said, we're not just saying. The first one we did put a whiteboard outside. I think it was London Bridge, and we wrote on the whiteboard, "Download HoneyPot, London's new dating app. We think you're going to love it." We didn't get a single download. I think we got one, but on a dating app it kind of takes 2 to match, so it kind of didn't work. So we did that. We're like, this is going to be great, whiteboard, no one's doing this. And we realised, oh, okay, that didn't work at all. Back to the drawing board, quite literally. We need to tell a story. We need to evoke some sort of emotion, create some drama, get people taking a picture of whatever we've just, positioned as like a stunt. And then the first one was about a cheating boyfriend saying, "Don't bother coming home tonight. Enjoy seeing this on Instagram the same way I saw you and that girl on the weekend. P.S. You're deluded if you think HoneyPot's the next Hinge." It was placed outside Liverpool Street. It went ballistic. We had thousands of people taking pictures of the thing. My name was attached to it. I'm now known as London's biggest cheater. Great. And people then looked into the story and sort of followed the trail behind this whiteboard and what was said on it, and then realised I was the co-founder of HoneyPot, and the joke was on me, and it was a PR stunt. Everything we do, as I said, we don't take ourselves too seriously, and the joke is always on us. But yeah, it requires some, you need thick skin to put yourself out there. It's declaring that. It's not nice, but it's working, and people are sharing it. If you got something that content that travels beats content that's paid, I believe. Something that's share-worthy, that people can talk about, even when people know it's a story or it's a PR stunt, it's still shareable, and it's still that is driving us downloads at the moment, just because people are chatting about the ways we're doing it.
I wanted to actually talk about. When you get like a lot of free organic marketing, how do you convert that? Because it's
very hard to measure.
It's extremely difficult. And I spoke to a healthcare founder who did a similar, not similar approach, but managed to create content in a really smart way. And they had a massive emphasis on capture and capturing the audience and then delivering value. So time to capture. Time to delivery of value metric. It was a completely different metric, but it was really refreshing to understand, because as soon as you've captured that free audience, is that something you're thinking about, like being able to wow the download?
It is for us in terms of how we've done it so far. First of all, location's so key of where we position these marketing stunts. It's very difficult to measure, what is the direct impact of pulling that marketing ploy. It's hard to do. We always take a snapshot of what have we got at the start of the day, what have we got at the end of the day, but it normally it prolongs, it's over a few days, and then when we post how we've done it on LinkedIn, that seems to get a lot of reach and more downloads come in off the back of that thing. But for us, we just need somewhere because we can't, it's very difficult, you can't do any targeting in public. You can't be like, unless you went to a university campus, you'd have some degree of targeting because they're students and they're that demographic. But when you're in central London and you're going somewhere with huge footfall, you can't just target someone. So you have to make your message, whatever you say, so generic and also clever enough where the general public will take a picture, any age. But then for you to get big reach and for it to travel, it must appeal to the masses. It must appeal to the masses.
Yeah.
So we look at, as I said, snapshot and downloads we get that day, but it's very, very difficult to. I mean, we've worked out, we have achieved about, we've got over 10,000 downloads now off a budget of about £289.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. You see, I'll see why I'm kind of, at the moment, at this stage, boycotting the digital. I'm not saying it's something we won't do. We definitely will be doing it. You know, I don't want to be up at 4 a.m. lugging a bloody whiteboard around London for the rest of my days. I'd love to go digital, but right now it's expensive to do. But yet undergoing this next round of funding, which I think is going to take the whole thing to the next level.
Yeah. A couple of things before we touch on our quick fire round.
Yeah.
What have you learned about product and designing product for a specific demographic, throughout this journey? And is there anything surprising that you've learned about the dating process throughout this journey?
Well, in terms of the design of the product, we've done this in a way where we visualize something. I remember sitting down at a coffee shop one morning and just, thrashing out what I wanted the app to look like, and it was on literally the back of a napkin. I've not got UI or product experience, but that's what I knew what I wanted the app to do. But I just thought I'll just get something down for now. We're now talking to product designers to make the thing aesthetically pleasing and the experience in a way where we convert more in terms of paid, that kind of things. We're now monetized in the app. But I'm very honest, we haven't taken an analytical view of the experience right now. We've just gone at this in a way where we need to get something to market. We need to get something out there. We've got a concept. We can't dwell on this too much. We can't look too much into the nitty-gritty of absolutely every intricate detail. We have to just go with our gut. And I think that's where an entrepreneur sometimes just needs to be like, I'm just going to try this. Because as you were saying about earlier, feedback is dictated by your users. And now this is where we're actually starting to iterate our product, be it feature-led or design-led. It's coming from the customer. We've got a great integration with Slack in the app. So if you message support, it comes through onto my Slack, and then I can reply, and that goes in-app message, which is super cool. And we really want to engage this community of people in that way. And I love talking to people about it. I mean, even when it's negative, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth, but sometimes it's like, could be better. We are aware, okay? We are aware. But the dating process, I mean, I tried to look at other apps, and so in terms of the design and how the thing works, a conventional dating app would have the like or the swipe feature. And the problem with that, we've made a strategic decision not to go down that route, because firstly, it's time consuming. It's it's all a bit boring.
So what have HoneyPot done?
Yeah, so you see a snapshot of absolutely every single person that meets your criteria in that HoneyPot. So you can have a quick scroll, anyone catches your eye, it takes 2 seconds to do rather than 10 minutes of doing that. Okay, but the problem, and I really believe why lots of dating apps fail, unless you're obtaining users quicker than they're swiping, what happens? Let's say you make a dating app and you get 100 users. They spent about roughly 1.2 seconds on a profile saying yes or no. 50 people, 50 guys, 50 girls, let's say that for example's sake, swiping, you've got a shelf life of less than 3 minutes, because they're doing that. If they say no, they'll never see that person again. They say yes, the other person has to match with them. So I think lots of dating apps who've popped up have failed because they're culling their own users. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. Unless you're bringing on a huge amount of people very quickly with a deep marketing budget, and you've really got that serious supply and demand there, it doesn't function because you run out of people. But we've done it in a way where we give you a grid view, basically show you and then you can send a little nudge to someone that catches your eye. If they then accept the nudge, you can message each other. So we're not basically screwing over our own app because people are culling people. So we've done it in that way in terms of the design, which I think has been quite important, especially for us in the early days of getting this out there and not becoming redundant early on. So that's how we've done it with the product.
Amazing, amazing. Let's go through to the quick fire round.
Sure, quick fire round. Gosh, catch me off guard. Here goes.
A book that you would give to a fellow startup founder.
Contagious by John Berger.
Interesting. Explain.
It's all to do with the psychology of how things catch on and go viral, and where that tipping point lies of why people engage and use products. It's fantastic. It's one of the best sort of non-fiction business books I've read. It's an orange book called Contagious. Yeah. And I read it probably 3 or 4 times. It's brilliant.
Favorite dating app outside of HoneyPot?
HoneyPot. No. Ooh, I don't use them. I'm actually banned from a few just because they know that I've been
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. Just not for malicious wrong reasons, but they know we do sort of testing on it and just to see how it all functions. And a few times I think my co-founder was on my profile and we matched with someone and they said, "Oh, have you heard about HoneyPot?" They reported, blacklisted straight away. So it's favourite dating app. Oh, it's meant to be quickfire, isn't it? Hinge is good. Fine, give it to them. Hinge, you're doing a good job.
What's the most valuable lesson you've learned across this journey?
Don't care what other people think about you. I think your biggest haters out there are actually people you know, and your biggest supporters are your strangers. That's what I found. So yeah, and there's people that judge you when you think, "Oh, I've got this idea for an app," or whatever you want to do. Straight away, people judge, which I don't like. I really believe the British are not as supportive around entrepreneurship or success as the Americans are. Americans celebrate it, and we're in this together. Let's go. I think the British are a bit more reserved, and to go at it and not really care what people think and just head down and do your thing and do it your way. Don't need to stick to any blueprint of how to launch a startup. Go with, as I said earlier, your gut, give it your all and be different.
Interesting. What's the most valuable failure that in hindsight has kind of set you up for success? Or on the right path?
Yeah, I mean, this HoneyPot is by all means not successful yet, but I'm not successful at all. I'm still very much on my journey, and I hope to make a success out of it. Biggest failure? Oh no, in terms of not launching the app, but we put a launch date of the 1st of August on HoneyPot, and I think anyone who wants to, I don't think doing a big hype of a launch of a product is necessarily a good thing. I think it's best to drip feed it.
Thank you.
Yes, drip feed it to a few early adopters, because no one cares about your product as much as you do. They don't care. They want something that just works and they like, and they don't want to be sold to, and they don't care about your launch date. We did that with the dating app. We just launched in Clapham and got our fingers burnt a little bit, got a few hundred downloads in, and we were like, right, okay.
I totally agree. Yeah, I think launch dates are for the 1990s.
Absolutely.
When newspapers were going bonkers.
Yeah. Correct.
Today, it's just a BS.
It really is.
Favorite restaurant in London?
Vapiano? Have you heard of that? I really like them.
Do you?
Yeah, I love it. It's great food. No, I like La Familia on the King's Road.
Okay.
That's really good.
That's pretty good. And favorite beverage?
Favorite beverage? Stella. A pint of Stella.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast. And we both agreed that I'm going to download the app.
Wicked.
And actually test it out because according to my producer, I'm too single.
Brilliant. Get on it.
Brilliant.